Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Week 1 NFL Review Recap. First of all, I just wanted to say a huge shout out to my wife, who very lovingly recommended the background change because I was quote-unquote showing the entire world all of our crap. So, thankfully yesterday she helped me get some stuff hung up, get the lighting a little better for you guys. So, yeah, I hope you guys appreciate it. I think it definitely looks a lot better. Excited about where we're headed. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead. Let's jump into week 1. We'll start off with Thursday night, Eagles versus Cowboys. I was super excited for this game. I kept saying, especially the fact that the Cowboys would have to be in the link, see the Super Bowl banner raised. It was an exciting night for sure. A little bit more excitement than what I was hoping for, definitely with Jalen Carter's ejection. It was very interesting seeing that in game, and then after the fact, seeing the alternate camera angles where Dak actually spits at Jalen first. That doesn't justify what Jalen Carter did. News has come out that Jalen Carter won't be suspended for any more games. That's all. Him getting excluded from the first game, they said, was suspension enough. So thankful on that front because, man, him not being there really, really showed. Dallas was able to run really well. We did not put good pressure on Dak at all. And Dak looked really good. Dak looked really, really good throwing the ball Thursday night. CeeDee Lamb had, I think, almost 100 yards just in the first half. Probably would have had almost 200 yards if he didn't drop 3 passes in the second half, which I'm definitely thankful he did drop those passes. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, the guy just wins. He knows how to win games. He gets it done. People love to say he can't throw. Has a great ball to Jahan Dotson. I think it was a 55, 60-yard pass. They say that all he can do is run the ball and not even do that well. Had 2 rushing touchdowns in both of those plays. He did incredibly well. Outrunning linebackers and juking linemen, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the guy just wins games, and people just doesn't like that he does it because he doesn't play football the way that they want him to play football. But for us fans that know, we know that Jalen Hurts is a good guy. We know that he's a great quarterback, that he's talented. He knows how to win games, put a team on his back, and do what's got to be done so that way we can win a football game. So big win over Dallas Thursday night, but I'm not going to lie, Dallas should have won that game. Dallas should have had that game in the bag. They had it several times and just didn't seem to pull it off. It was definitely a quiet night from George Pickens, a little more quiet than I think people were expecting. I would credit Quinyon to playing really good defense. CD had a huge night. We didn't have Quinyon guarding him for a good portion of time. Adoree Jackson, that weakness at cornerback number 2 definitely showed Thursday night. Pretty obvious that we've got to figure out the defensive back area in terms of who's going to be opposite of Quinyon while Cooper plays in the dime position. So, yeah, I thought it was a really intense game. The Eagles did what they had to win. In all reality, the Cowboys should have had that one. It was definitely a close game. Cowboys probably should have had it, though. So, moving on to Friday night. Chiefs playing the Chargers, game in Brazil. Didn't really know what to expect. I think everybody kind of looks at the Chiefs and we're thinking this is going to be the same guys that just are able to pull out a win, even if it's not pretty, it's ugly and scrappy. And it almost happened again, but a big part of what I felt like was different about this Chiefs versus Chargers games was, the Chiefs have always put a lot on Patrick Mahomes. But this game felt like it was entirely on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it felt like, he had wide receivers dropping the ball. Kelsey wasn't as big of a factor as we're used to seeing him, which obviously with age. But the Chiefs' defense really didn't show up in a huge way. I've looked at Trent McDuffie. I think is one of the most underrated corners in the league, and Justin Herbert was torching them. I mean, I believe he was 31 for 39 for 300 yards, and he had quite a few passing touchdowns. I mean, he just looked incredible. And so the Chiefs just felt like they were kind of stranded. You had a good performance from Hollywood Brown, 10 catches for 99 yards. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes was doing Patrick Mahomes plays. Like, I saw something that was funny, that Chris Collinsworth was really, really mad that he didn't get to call that Friday night game because Pat had a 3rd and 6, he literally like dives and pitches the ball horizontally over 3 Chargers where he gets to a guy for a first down, which was wild. And then that fourth quarter play, he's rolling out. Khalil Mack is all over him, and he just chucks the ball 50 yards downfield right to Hollywood Brown, who's wide open. So, yeah, the Chiefs just felt like they were very much so, okay, Pat, go win us the game. We'll see what we can do. I mean, yeah, but on the flip side of that, the Chargers, man, did Justin Herbert look good. I mean, and we're kind of used to this at this point. The Justin Herbert hype train gets going so fast. We love talking about the rocket arm. He can run if he has to. He's really smart, perfect quarterback build. And then when the time comes for the Chargers to win games, they're the Chargers and they don't win games. And for anybody that's a Chargers fan, you have seen this pain over and over and over again. So I think this is one of those where it's like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Got a great head coach in the building, got a great quarterback, solid looking defense, got talent. Quentin Johnston was making great plays. Had 2 touchdown catches. He did have a drop touchdown catch that could have been another one, but it was a hard ball to catch for sure. But definitely exciting. Definitely exciting to see that for the Chargers. But yeah, I just had this feeling of like the Chiefs defense just looked so frustrated. Like they looked so frustrated that they couldn't make the tackles that they needed to. They couldn't cover the wide receivers. Like everybody just seemed like they had a step on the entire Chiefs defense. I will say, except for Drew Tranquill, that guy had a crazy game. He was all over the place. Had 2 huge sacks. That was awesome. And then I did want to also comment on the crazy field goal drive that the Chiefs had right before halftime. Was just perfect execution. Literally get the ball down in field goal range with 1 second left on the clock, and they get a field goal. However, the efforts were not enough as the Chargers played incredibly well. Came down to the end. Justin Herbert with a clutch run. That really sealed the game for them. So, yeah. Chiefs win 21. Chargers win 27-21. That being said, let's move on to the 1 p.m. games. All right, so let's talk about the Browns versus the Bengals. This was just a bad game of football, honestly. I felt like Joe Burrow looked okay. Like he had some good throws, made some plays, and the Bengals defense looked okay. I mean, they were all right, but I think that the biggest key to this game was the Bengals offensive line was really rough. Really bad play from them. It looked like every snap they were going backwards. Never felt like they were establishing any kind of toughness or grit or strength. It was bad, and I think that's why you only see you see Jamar Chase have such a low volume game. They only had 46 yards on 23 carries. And they just, like a win is a win, right? But it was against the Browns, and they still did not look good. Like, yes, they had a win, but they did not look good. That offensive line has got to get itself figured out. But, T. Higgins had next to no receiving yards. Jamar Chase had a very quiet game. Noah Fant had a touchdown, which that was cool. I think Noah Fant's a really talented guy, just never has really found like that niche home for him. So maybe that'll happen. But on the Browns side, Joey Flacco, guy can still ball. I mean, yeah, he had 2 picks, but they were tipped picks. Like one of the balls was a little high and all that. But yeah, I mean, like he really didn't play bad. Jerry Jeudy had some really bad drops. Just can't happen. Browns couldn't establish a run game. The Browns' offensive line is kind of in a similar situation to Cincinnati. But all around, just not a very good game of football, except for Myles Garrett, who absolutely terrorized the Bengals. I think it was on one of the Bengals' last drives. He had back-to-back sacks, almost had a safety, but just the way that he pressures and changes a game is just incredible. But yeah, so the Bengals do get a win, 17-16. Not a very impressive game, though. Giants versus Commanders. Commanders had a great touchdown drive to open up the game. It was just, they were methodical, moved right down the field. Jaden Daniels looked really well composed. And their new rookie running back looks like he could really be a problem. Jacoby Crosby Merritt He went 10 for 82 and a touchdown, had some big runs. Like he was I think they're calling him Wild Bill or something like that. I don't know where that comes from, but he looked awesome. He looked really, really good. For the Giants defense, the secondary looked really bad. But those boys up front were getting after it. I mean, Brian Burns had 2 first half sacks. He looked like he was playing really strong. You're just hoping that Kayvon Thibodeau can finally develop into a good threat with the way that the defensive line is composed. But I think it's year 4, year 5 for him. So should have seen that at this point. But hopefully he can still develop. I think one of the things with Washington is they've got a lot of big names and a lot of big talent. And you're just hoping that you see that more and more. I think that you saw that from the veterans. Austin Eckler had a crazy 2nd and 15 screen pass that was thrown to him, and he literally just, took off, broke 3 tackles, had a spin move, dove across to get the first down. Debo had a great touchdown catch and play that he made. So it was a bit of a slow second half for Washington, but we know that this is a strong team. Again, they got a lot of money invested in some veteran players who have played football for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how Washington shakes out. But yeah, they get the win 21-6. Next up, we got Saints versus the Cardinals. Kamara started off this game with a vintage touchdown run. I mean, it was one of those where I feel like Alvin Kamara looks like he runs like 10 miles an hour, but no one can catch him. And then he just like bulldozes people and very elusive and just a really great running back. Still very talented for sure, even though he's getting up there in age. And he opens up the scoring for the Saints on the season. I did feel like the Saints passing game was very timid. They're starting Spencer Rattler. They drafted Tyler Shuck, who is like, I think he's 26, which is wild. 26-year-old rookie. They're not putting him out there. You'd think maybe they would go with him just to try and develop him, see what they have at that position. But they go with Spencer Rattler, who, if you don't remember, I believe he was a 5-star recruit out of high school. I remember watching the Netflix documentary where it was talking about him and some other high school quarterbacks. Goes to Oklahoma to play with Lincoln Riley. Caleb Williams comes in, takes his job, doesn't really work out, transfers to South Carolina. Never looked like the guy that we thought he was going to be. And he looked pretty solid in this game. I think that Kellen Moore, first-year head coach, I think he just wanted to be a little more conservative. And, yeah, it just felt like the passing game was a little too timid. They never really uncorked the ball for a deep shot to a guy like Rashee Rice or, ran a lot of play action. It just felt like it was a little more timid than what you'd expect. A lot more screen passes, dink and dunk. Dropping off the ball, which again, you've got a young quarterback. You're trying to build some confidence, so I get that. But I think next week you let the guy make it fly. I mean, he looked pretty darn good, and obviously that game came down to a last-second play. There was 2 seconds left on the clock, and the Saints had one more play, and Spencer Rattler just overthrew the guy out of bounds. That was a bad throw, but the play before that, he had a crazy over the top, right over the linebacker, right underneath the safety to his tight end. And I can't remember, I think it just bounced off of his hands and just didn't go their way, which you hate to see it. But, I mean, yeah, it looked pretty decent. On Arizona's side of things, I have Arizona needs to keep going to Trey McBride. He was so good. He was incredible. I mean, every time the ball touched his hands, he was producing. And with a guy like that, you got to keep giving him the ball back. Kyler Murray's in an interesting year, definitely, with kind of it being what a lot of people would probably say might be a make or break season for him. Had some good throws to Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, going to Trey McBride. He had a sweet shovel pass for their first touchdown. It was like a little fake handoff. You're thinking he's running it, just flips it right through to James Conner, and he walks in. That was a really cool play. But yeah, one of the things to keep in mind, though, New Orleans did force 5 sacks. So that's one of those things, okay, is that just the veteran guys getting it done up front? Or could that still be the same offensive line troubles we've seen for the Cardinals for a couple years that we're trying to see how they go? But regardless, Cardinals get a win. They win 20-13 in New Orleans. Moving on to Panthers versus Jags. Man, Bryce Young is one of my favorite players, just going back to him playing at Alabama. He is a man of faith. I think it's it's hard him not being who everyone thought that he could be right now. Right now. But I mean, he looked so shaky. The pick that he threw was really bad. Had quite a few missed throws where it was just overthrown, underthrown, not where the ball should have been. Despite Tetaroa McMillan looking great in his first start. Yeah, he's got to be better. Again, their offensive line is not known for being great, but yeah, Bryce has got to play better. You gotta overcome those things as a quarterback and prove yourself. So obviously Travis Hunter. Everybody was excited to see him, and you could definitely tell that the Jags offense was trying to force a lot of plays his way. Had a lot of screen passes, some quick slants, all that kind of stuff. He looked good. I mean, as advertised. I think one of the things that was interesting, though, is Brian Thomas Jr. had one catch, who this guy last year was incredible. I mean, sensational rookie last year. You're expecting him to be a guy that's getting 8 catches a game. Just didn't really happen. That could have been because J.C. Horn was covering him, but I would definitely encourage the Jags to throw the ball to that guy because he is very good. Yeah. Travis Etienne looked awesome too. Had a 71-yard run. I mean, he just broke free. Looked really good, like how he was coming out of college. So congrats to Liam Combs getting a win in his first coaching start for the Jags. It's the first time in Jags history that's happened. They win 26-10 at home against the Panthers. Next, we got the Titans versus Broncos. Number 1 overall pick Cam Ward gets his first start in his first game in Mile High against Denver. I was saying from the beginning, that is a very tough way to start your career. I actually said I think it's very similar to Arch Manning having to open up his collegiate career at Ohio State. It's a tough place to play, and it's a hard defense to go up against. Starting with Denver, man, Bo Nix started this game so hot. I mean, he looked really good, running the play action, moving out of the pocket, making great throws. Looked super composed and mature. Just awesome. And then he threw a 50-50 ball pick, and it felt like that really kind of took his confidence away. He did kind of find his footing a little later on in the game and looked pretty darn good. But yeah, the thing with Tennessee was they gave up 6 sacks, and it was bad. I remember, I don't know if I've ever counted this before, but one of the sacks that the Broncos had, there were 8 people in the backfield. 8 people were behind the line of scrimmage when Cam Ward went down. Like, that is some serious pressure that he was having to face. Yeah, I felt like Tennessee fought incredibly hard, but they just couldn't put all the pieces together. I mean, Calvin Ridley had some terrible drops late. Jeffrey Simmons had a really bad penalty called against him. And this is where I think discipline is important. You see this a lot in the first week of the NFL of who was disciplined in the offseason and who may not have been. And I think Tennessee, unfortunately, was one of the examples of that. I'm going to talk about another example later. But discipline is so crucial, not just in sports, but in our lives. I mean, I think that we can notice it in our walk with Christ, in our daily life. When our discipline is lacking, you start to see the fruit of that. Tennessee had 130 plus penalty yards in one game of football. And that's the kind of stuff that cannot happen. You can't win games if you have penalties like that. I feel like it's similar even in our walk with Christ, man. If you've got penalty after penalty after penalty because of undiscipline in your life, there's got to be problems, and those things have got to be worked through. They've got to be talked through. They've got to be adjusted. So I'm hoping Tennessee can figure it out. Great game for Joey Sly. 4 field goals is pretty great, but that's not what you're looking for if you're a Tennessee fan. You're looking for touchdowns, not field goals. So I think Tennessee, obviously first game of the season, we love to overreact and say we know who's winning the Super Bowl and who's not, but Tennessee could definitely have something here. They got to be disciplined, and Cam Ward looked pretty darn good. I do think Denver needs to run the ball more. I think Denver on offense, they should really look to run the ball more. They had great averages in terms of running yards, but I think Sean Payton is one of those guys who he really likes to throw the ball, really likes Bo Nix, so I understand. Moving on to Bucks versus Falcons. Man, Bijan Robinson is an absolute game breaker. This guy, you could tell that the Falcons know it, man. I mean, the amount of times they hit him with screen passes or just handing the ball off to him, just letting him make plays, and he is so good. He is so good at running. He is so quick, so fast. Reminds me of a certain running back, plays for the Eagles. Not quite as good. That's a little bit biased, but yeah, Bijan looked awesome. Keep getting him the ball. As far as Michael Penix, he looks so composed and mature in the pocket. Didn't feel like the pressure was too much for him. He continued to deliver. And he was clutch too. I mean, you look at the touchdown he had to where it was like it looked like he dove from the 4-yard line and had a guy wrapped around his ankles, yet he still managed to score the ball. Had a clutch first down that he got running the ball. And he just looked awesome. I mean, Penix looked great. Bijan looked great. It's just a bummer their pass rush didn't really come through for them for Atlanta. It looked like Mayfield is just one of those guys who's just so consistent, has great energy. I do think that they'll probably look to get the running game going a little bit more next week. Passing game was solid, but there was a lot of teams that have felt like they didn't establish the running game, whether it was because they just couldn't, like the Bengals, where it just was not working, or they just were, I don't know, maybe just rolling with the passing game and just didn't really think to run the ball because it was just working well. But anyways, the Bucs looked so good. I mean, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka. This guy had an incredible debut. 2 touchdowns, 60-plus receiving yards. And then after the game, all he did was honor the name of Jesus. So definitely love seeing that. Their defense, the Bucs defense, looked great. They bent a lot, but they would not break against what I think is a great offense. Again, on the Falcons, you've got Michael Penix at quarterback, Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. You've got Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and then guys that are really underrated, like Ray McCloud. I mean, they have a lot of talent, and the Bucs continue to bend but would not break. They showed a lot of great run defense. And I got a note here, you can mark my words, I think that these will be 2 of the best offenses in all the NFC. I think Atlanta and Tampa look very strong, and I think it could be a real heavyweight slugfest for the NFC South, which I'm very excited to watch. Up next, we got Raiders versus the Patriots playing in New England. Oh, and final score, I apologize. Final score of the Bucs versus the Falcons game was 23-20. Falcons had a chance to get a game-tying field goal, and it was missed. So, it's a bummer for them. But yeah. So, moving on to Raiders versus Patriots. Geno Smith was absolutely balling. He looked so good, so confident. It was on his touchdown pass that he had to, I think it was, oh my goodness, Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker burns the guy on a deep post. I mean, and the mechanics on Geno's throw was just perfect. I mean, set his feet, swung the hips, shoulders back, and it was just such a pretty pass. So Geno looked awesome. I got a note. He still hasn't wrote back. That's a hilarious interview clip when he was at the Seahawks and started playing really well. He said, "They wrote me off. I ain't never write back though." Yeah, he played good. I think people again thought coming into this year, yeah, Geno's a quarterback, whatever. Like he's not really going to do anything. He proved that he can definitely still play. But yeah, he did have a tipped pick. The ball was a tad high, but I don't think that was necessarily on it wasn't necessarily on him. But yeah, I think that if Geno stays good, stays healthy, man, the AFC West is looking like they're going to be really strong. Yeah. The Pats defense, on the other hand, was really bad. They were pretty darn bad. Other than Jalen Hawkins, they came out and they cut Jabril Peppers right before the season start, which that was kind of a big, whoa, what is going on? Kyle Duggar, I think they also released or traded. So it's just kind of interesting what Mike Vrabel's doing. You would especially think that Mike Vrabel would want both of those guys. Those seem like Mike Vrabel, tough, gritty guys, and just decided to get rid of them. So we'll see how their defense rounds out. But Jalen Hawkins had a crazy game. I've never even heard of this guy, but had a crazy pick. Or he was the one that caught the tipped pick and just very athletic play. I think he also had a sack. I mean, he was all over the place. He looked great. And for the Pats offense, their offensive line has been a question. Drake May is a young quarterback, still has to prove himself. And Keyshawn Boutte looked really, really good. Looked like he could definitely be a lead receiver, especially now that the Pats have traded Kendrick Bourne. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do for the Pats, but they definitely need some more firepower on offense and defense, if you ask me. Yeah, they didn't look really tough either. You would think with a Mike Vrabel team they're gonna be tough and after it. Just didn't really see that. So last thing I wanted to say on the Raiders, they ran a lot of two tight ends, which I thought was interesting. You know, everybody knows Brock Bowers, he's awesome, but I believe it was Michael Mayer who had like some crazy catches, had a great game. So that was a good game by the Raiders. They win the game 20-13. Moving on, Dolphins versus Colts. Man, you want to talk about lack of discipline and it showing itself in a very, very ugly way. Apparently this offseason, a lot of people were sharing that inside the Dolphins the Dolphins building, there was a lot of culture issues, a lot of issues of players showing up late to meetings, not respecting one another, like just the kind of stuff that no fan ever wants to hear because you know how that's going to show on a football field. And man, did it show. And my heart goes out to Tua. I love Tua, but it was confusing watching Tua play this game. Another guy I've watched since college. He has always been accurate, and he was not accurate. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's like seeing someone that you know what to expect with this person, and then they're just not that at all. I mean, you know, the two picks he had were really bad. He just looked uncomfortable. I don't know if that was entirely just to the offensive line. I don't know if that's to credit the Colts defensive line. You know, they got Leatu Latu, DeForest Buckner. You know, they've got some good talent on that defensive line. So maybe it was just the Colts defensive line giving them real problems to where they just could not handle it. But yeah, the Dolphins just looked really bad. Confusing game for Tua. Tyreek was not involved at all. Jalen Waddle was not really there. Devon Achane did look good in the running game, but it was just weird. It was a weird game when you come to expect the Dolphins offense to be such a high-flying unit. Again, this is mostly all the same pieces that dropped 70 on the Broncos last season or 2 seasons ago, and they didn't even put up a fight. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to watch. On the other hand, the Colts, Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Danny Derps, whatever you want to call him, man, he looked like a killer, man. He was awesome. I did have a note. He was a little inaccurate on some of his passes. You know, I think if you're not throwing that touchdown to Michael Pittman, who happens to be like 6'5", 6'6", with incredibly long arms, probably not going to complete that. He was full on reaching out to grab that ball for the touchdown, but I don't want to take away from Daniel Jones. He was awesome. I think that the Colts have two very dynamic weapons in Tyler Warren, the rookie out of Penn State, and Jonathan Taylor, the long-time running back that the Colts have had. They just looked awesome. It looked like Steichen was very intentional on having a lot of screens and pitch plays going to both those guys because they are incredible when the ball is in their hands, and I think the Colts keep going back to that well all season long. It looks like they really have some underrated firepower on offense. They put up 27 first downs. 27 first downs. And I know Miami typically has not had a great defense. That it also was shown yesterday for sure. But man, some credit to the Colts. You know, this team has been floundering for the last almost 10 years, I think, since Andrew Luck retired, which is, you know, that was obviously a shock for everybody. But just happy for him. Happy for Daniel Jones. I think coaching matters. I think coaching fits matters. We're going to talk about it in the next game that we cover as well. But, you know, good on Daniel Jones. Good on the Colts. Dolphins. Figure it out, man. Figure it out. So Jets versus Steelers. Another game where I think coaching matters. Aaron Rodgers had a vintage performance. It was incredible. I think that's part of coaching, you know. Like we look at the Jets of the last 2 years under Robert Saleh, and I felt like he just kind of wanted to put everything on Rodgers and just hope that it would fix itself. It just doesn't work like that. It can't all be on one guy. And same thing for Justin Fields. I thought Justin Fields looked good in Pittsburgh. I know some people might curl their nose up at that, but I thought he looked good. I mean, he was getting the job done, and then gets replaced for Russell Wilson, which I feel like Justin Fields, is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson as of right now, if you ask me. I would rather have Justin Fields starting for my team than Russell Wilson. But man, this game was awesome. I'm so happy I turned this game on. Just folding laundry watching this game, and nobody expected this. Nobody expected the Jets and Steelers to be a game that would end up being 34-32. The Jets had some incredible production. They put up almost 400 yards on the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense that has Jalen Ramsey, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Patrick Queen, some incredible stars. And they put up 394 yards with a quarterback that everybody said was washed up. Man, it was awesome to watch. Even with Elijah Vera Tucker being out for the year, the Jets just produced 182 rushing yards. 182. That's incredible. The Jets they looked really fun. They were really fun to watch. I think Jets fans should be optimistic for this year. Not overly optimistic of, you're going to win the AFC East and or be the first seed in the playoffs, but I could see this team maybe making a 7th seed. I really could. The Jets' rushing defense was great. They put up 4 sacks. Will McDonald had 2. Quinnen Williams was strong. Quincy Williams got in the backfield for a sack. The Jets still have a great defense. Props to Aaron Glenn. Talking about discipline and how it can affect you in your life, in your football team, whatever. Aaron Glenn has made these boys discipline, and it is paying dividends. And so, again, if you're struggling with discipline in your life, recognize that there's so much fruit that comes from that when you're disciplined. That's been a walk that the Lord has taken me through recently. I was getting really concerned about getting up there in weight. I was 230 pounds at the beginning of August, and it was because I wasn't being disciplined. I'm now down to about sub 215, which I'm really happy with, feeling good about it. But it just changes things. I'm wanting to be in the Word more, wanting to pray more, and spend time with the Father. So I'd encourage you, be like the Jets, be disciplined. All right. But yeah, so this is the thing though. The Jets couldn't force any kind of turnovers. I really do believe if the Jets forced a pick in this game, they would have won. However, there was a man who plays for Pittsburgh who had something to say about that. Aaron Rodgers looked his best since 2021. He was efficient, he was smart, he was commanding, and he was clutch. The way that he was able to just be a point guard from behind the offensive line, of just calling out plays, making the adjustments that needed to be made. It was incredible to see. He really did play a great game. And I think that, the fact that the Steelers couldn't even really get a running game going at all, they put the game on Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, all their tight ends. Of course, people make jokes about Arthur Smith and Jonnu Smith. But Steelers did what they had to do to win. Chris Boswell with some crazy clutch kicks to put the Steelers ahead and for them to win the game. That was an awesome game. I thought that we maybe had one of the games of the week right there for sure. So now moving on to the afternoon games. We've got the 49ers versus the Seahawks. Incredible opening drive from San Fran. They looked incredibly good. Their young players really shined in this game, especially at the wide receiver position. Let me back up. So 49ers had a great opening drive. Brock Purdy was composed. They're moving the ball to Ricky Pearsall. CMC was getting involved. And that's been one of the things talking about the 49ers is a little bit of lack of weapons. George Kittle, obviously still there. I believe he was the one that caught the touchdown on the opening drive. They look good coming out of the gate. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall had an amazing game for the 49ers. And on the flip side, Jackson Smith-Njigba for the Seahawks was also incredible. Both those guys are in year 2, both put up over 130 receiving yards and had 6 or 7 catches. So it was a great game from them. I thought Darnold looked really good, but I didn't feel like they gave him enough plays to really be him. Darnold is one of those guys who's really good at play action, really good throwing on the move. Very talented in that department. I felt like for some reason the Seahawks just didn't really give him a lot of those plays to be himself. I feel like the 49ers did a great job of getting Christian McCaffrey involved. A lot of screens. He looked good, man. He looked like he's primed to have another good season. Always just hope that he can stay healthy. Um, I also wanted to say I really feel for Jake Moody. Had a doinked field goal, had a missed field goal. Yesterday, I'm recording this Wednesday morning. As of yesterday, Jake Moody did get released, which is rough. He was a higher draft pick, but you could just see the uncomfortability on his face, and you could tell he wasn't proud of himself, which is just that was hard. That was hard to watch for sure. Um, with Brock Purdy, he did have those two picks that were rough. Just passes that should not have been thrown, should have been thrown away. They were in Seattle, so obviously it's a loud place. First game of the season, always going to be some jitters, but yeah, I think we know that Purdy is better than what he showed, and I think Darnold is better than what he showed. Um, but yeah, the touchdown for San Francisco, clutch. And this one guy, Jake Tonjes, I think is what his name was, like a tight end that I don't think anyone had ever heard of, has a great 50-50 ball catch in the end zone. And then Seahawks are walking down the field. Nick Bosa gets a game-sealing strip sack. 49ers beat the Seahawks 17-13. All right, next afternoon game, we've got Rams versus the Texans. So Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua, the new wide receiver duo for the Rams. Man, they were tough. They were incredibly tough. Devontae Adams had a hit on him very early on in this game. He caught a slant route, gets tackled from behind. Someone comes up and like just popped him in the face. I mean, he just stands up. Like I couldn't believe it. I thought he was. If that were me, I would have just laid on the field, let someone cart me off in a stretcher. But incredibly tough. Puka Nakua had that hit where he caught some over the middle, was fighting going down, gets cracked at the same time. His eyes bleed, and it was a really cool camera shot. Not gonna lie, looked really really cool. But incredibly tough performance from those guys. Puka continues to look like one of the best receivers in the league. I mean, just he's so productive. He's so physical. He's fast. He's strong. He's just a real go-getter. Shout out to Puka. Had a great game. Um, the Texans looked a little shaky. One of the things I noted here, they didn't have a receiver that either had more than 3 catches or more than 32 receiving yards. But I continue to credit the Rams defense. I think the Rams have one of the best defenses in the league. They're so young and talented all over the field. Durant had an awesome 50-50 pick on CJ Stroud. And obviously those guys you've got up front, you have Jared Verse, who just won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Braden Fisk was very underrated last year, had 8.5 sacks as a rookie. Byron Young is awesome. And then Cam Curl, and then I think his name's Kobe Durant, but they've got talent all over the field. So the Texans struggled. They definitely had a hard game, and their offensive line looked really bad, really really bad. It looked like CJ didn't really have time to do anything. They could not establish a run game. Joe Mixon's not in. Nick Chubb, he's coming off of another knee injury. Just a hard game for the Texans offense. But even with that, like their defense felt like they did enough. I think you would expect more points from the Rams. But holy cow, the way that the Rams closed out this game on defense. I can't remember if it was a screen pass or a run, but this guy, he had one of the coolest names. I didn't write it down because I don't want to even try and say it, but he came up and just cracked whoever had the ball. Ball pops out. Rams recover the fumble to win the game 14-9, beating the Texans. Next, we have Lions versus Packers. Man, this Lions offensive line got absolutely torched. It was really, really bad. Obviously, Frank Ragnow retired. Lions fans knew that was going to hurt, but I mean, again, part of this is the Packers have such a good defensive line. I think almost everyone on their defensive line got a sack, including Micah in his debut. But the pressure on the Lions' offensive line is just really high right now. I do want to say Jared Goff really didn't play bad. He really didn't. Watching this game, he looked like Jared Goff that we're used to seeing, the good one, not Jared Goof, but like actually good Jared Goff. but he didn't have any time to really take the deep shots that the Lions are known for. They're known for hitting JMO on deep balls. Didn't have the time to do that. Amon-Ra had an okay game, but it was just a hard game for the Lions offense. Jahmyr Gibbs was trying, just could not get going. They were just getting pushed around. But yeah, man, this Packers defense is nuts. It is definitely a nasty defense for sure. Yeah, they're the Lions defense. We talked a lot about if they can get healthy, they're a good team. They didn't force a pick, didn't force a fumble. They did not even force a sack. They only had 2 tackles for loss this game, which means if the Patriots didn't have an incompletion outside of those 2 plays, they were going forward. That is hard. That is hard to stop. That's hard to excuse. The Packers' offense looked so good. Jordan Love looked very composed. Everyone's talking about him being a potential MVP candidate. He looked awesome. Very well composed. Receiver by committee. I think it was like his first 8 completions were to 8 different guys. Wow, that's a rare feat. The Packers are looking like they are gunning for a first seed. That is for sure. Looked like they were gunning for the first seed in the NFC. Love did have a few overthrows. Again, first game, but he sure did look composed. It was a really good game. The Packers just torched the Lions 23-17 in Lambeau. I do believe that the Lions can turn it around. Again, the Packers are a very good team. It's a hard way to open the season. I think you still got a guy under center in Jared Goff. Just hoping that they can put the rest of the pieces together. All right, on to Sunday night's game. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have the game of the year in week 1. I don't know if we're going to see another game like this year. Holy cow. It was an incredible game to watch. I was watching this game, one of those where I was watching on my phone while I'm cooking dinner, and then I got it on the TV while I'm eating dinner, and then I have it on my phone walking upstairs, and I've got it on the TV while I'm getting ready for bed. And it was just nuts, man. The Ravens came out so hot, and they looked so good. I think Derrick Henry had one of the best rushing performances in a half, maybe even ever. Had, I think it was a 70-yard run, but he had this one run where he stiff-armed a guy and literally bounced his head like a basketball. I mean, it was, golly, it was a great game from Derrick Henry to start off. Lamar looked really good. He looked good throwing the ball. He didn't even have to throw the ball that much. And before the Ravens knew it, they were up 40. They had 40 points. They just looked so incredibly poised on offense. Incredible game from Zay Flowers. Had over 100 receiving yards. D-Hop had the nastiest one-handed grab. It was so good seeing him making plays. He's such an awesome, talented guy. Love seeing D-Hop getting the ball. Yeah, it was a great game from the Ravens. They looked great on defense to start off the game. But this was a tale of 2 halves. Because, man, were the Bills furious and they came back. The Ravens defense just got to a point where they couldn't contain the Bills. James Cook was running well. Josh Allen was being Josh Allen, making incredible plays. And then the big turning point in this game as the Bills start coming back, you don't think there's enough time. Derrick Henry fumbles the ball. And it was this swing that everyone could feel and everyone knew it. And Buffalo just started coming back, man. They only needed 4 points to rob the Ravens. They needed 4 minutes to rob the Ravens of this game. Yeah, it was wild to watch. It was really wild to watch. Josh Allen leads this team. The Bills defense bent but didn't break after that point. Didn't give up any more points past 40. Ed Oliver was huge late in this game. Keon Coleman, the receiver for the Bills, came through. And then the story, Matt Prater, 41-year-old kicker, has 2 big field goals and the walk-off game winner to win by 41-40 at Orchard Park in New York, the last season that the Bills will be playing there. It was such a good game. Such a good game. Yeah, I think, I was picking the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl against the Eagles. That's my prediction. And obviously after week 1, I can now have to scrap all of that, because we now know everything about the NFL after week 1. I'm just kidding. But I had picked the Ravens to go, and they looked like everything is advertised until the Bills just flipped this game. That's the thing with the NFL, man. You just never know. You never know what you're gonna get. A game can swing quicker than you expect and be totally turned around. So shout out to the Bills for getting it done. It was an awesome game. And finishing out week 1, we got Monday Night Football. The Vikings versus the Bears. This game was very rocky early for J.J. McCarthy. Had the pick 6. Looked a little shaky. Obviously it's his first NFL start. He's not technically a rookie, but basically a rookie. Hasn't had any game experience. Has the early pick 6. And, I think that a lot of people are expecting J.J. McCarthy to come out and torch this Bears defense because they were down like 3 defensive backs. Jalen Johnson wasn't in. I think their second corner wasn't in. So I think everyone thought that Justin Jefferson was going to have 500 receiving yards and 17 touchdowns. I mean, it looked like it was going to swing that way. But J.J. McCarthy starts off the game pretty early with throwing a pick 6. But yeah, it was again, it was kind of one of those games similar to the Ravens versus Bills where the Bears looked good. They looked composed. Caleb was playing pretty darn well. DJ Moore wasn't able to get too involved. They weren't able to run the ball well at all. The Vikings defense is very good. Javon Hargrave had a great game with 2 sacks. But the Bears looked like, they were on the way to win the game. And then it was like J.J. McCarthy just turned it on. I mean, he just really got going late in this game. The Vikings offense looked awesome. I think that it was a great game. I think that the Bears should be a little more optimistic. Like, don't write off the season. Oh my gosh, we're never going to win. The Vikings are a good team. They have a great roster. And Caleb did make some plays. There was a crazy play to Cole Kmet running over the middle, and he jumped up and tipped the ball and then grabbed it with one hand. It was a great play. But yeah, the NFC North is going to be a great conference or a great division this year. That's for sure. The Bears defense produced 3 sacks and a pick. So I'm just hoping that they can fix a little bit of their woes on offense as they move forward. You're definitely hoping that they can get things figured out. But yeah, the Vikings come back and they win that game 24-21. Which again, 27-24. So again, Vikings, I think you just continue to put it together. Keep moving with what you got, and the Bears don't be too down on yourself. So yeah, that is week 1 of the NFL. We're gonna do a quick look ahead to Thursday night's game for this upcoming week, and I'll let you guys know that on Friday we're gonna be doing a power rankings episode. I'm going to preview the games that are coming up on Sunday, and then we will do a little bit of a power ranking segment, talk about some storylines you should watch. But yeah, so just to talk about Thursday night's game before we wrap up the episode of the podcast here, we have Washington at Green Bay. If you're a Green Bay fan, I think you're really excited about this. You could take down 2 NFC powerhouses in the same week. I think Washington looked good, but I would definitely peg Green Bay to win this game and potentially win it handily. I think that Jaden Daniels is going to be I think he's going to feel trapped in the pocket. I don't think he's going to be able to move the way that we're expecting him to, or that we're used to seeing him move. Yeah, I see this Packers defense holding Washington very well. And I see Washington probably asking some questions. I think Washington also has a good defense, but I think the Packers are a little too much. I really do think that right now I have the Packers picked to, I have to pick the Eagles to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. If it's not the Eagles, I'll put it that way. If it's not the Eagles winning the NFC number 1 seed, I think it'll be the Packers. So we'll give a score prediction. I'll take the Packers 33, Commanders 17. Book it. All right. Thank you guys so much for checking in for week 1 recap and wrap up of the NFL. Really excited I get to do this. Just thankful that God's given me the opportunity and allowed me to be able to do this. I just want to say thank you guys so much. I was genuinely overwhelmed by the support that I've gotten from everybody. Just people liking my stuff on Facebook and sharing it. People checking it out on YouTube, checking it out on Spotify. Yeah, it just means the world to me, guys. So just know that I appreciate you. And that being said, let's close in a word of prayer. Father, I just thank you. Lord, I thank you for sports. God, I thank you that you use sports to be something that can draw us closer together, and even talk about you, God. I pray for anybody that's watching this podcast, Lord, and even for myself, that you would just help us with discipline, as we talked about today. That discipline would be a staple in our lives, God, that we would be disciplined in the way that we act, the way that we behave, and the way that we walk with you, Lord. So, yeah, God, I pray that you would just allow us all to have a great week, and we just thank you for this day. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, I'll see you guys on Friday.